que vous pensez de cette proposition du Bloc québécois pour faire cette exception au code criminel pour les discours haineux? Est-ce que ça répond à un problème qui existe, un problème réel?
Le problème réel, c'est qu'on voit une montée effrayante de l'antisémitisme et de l'islamophobie à travers le pays. On a déjà des règles très sévères contre l'incitation à la haine, le génocide et à la violence. Mais on va regarder attentivement le projet de loi, puis on va voir si ça ajoute ou ça répond à quelque chose.
L'exemption religieuse?
C'est exactement ce qu'on va regarder. Je pense que dans une société responsable, on a ces discussions, certainement faisant face à une montée de la haine qu'on voit chez nous qui est très problématique. Mais ultimement, ce que ça prend, c'est que les gens se souviennent de qui on est en tant que Canadien, qu'on n'est pas là pour lancer des molotovs contre les centres religieux, qu'on n'est pas là pour inciter la haine entre les Canadiens. C'est pas qui nous sommes.
On pharmacare, what's your message to those who might be disappointed to see that the Liberals are kind of walking back from the commitment to put forward legislation by the end of the year?
Oh, we have been committed to doing that, but we want to do it in working with the NDP. They've had discussions with us. We're ready to go, but we're open to talking with them to try and make sure that it's as ambitious as we can do in the right way. People are paying too much for medications in this country. They shouldn't ever have to decide between paying for rent or food and medications, and that's what we're working on together.
Can your government afford universal pharmacare?
Listen, we have, over the past number of years, taken significant steps towards lowering drug prices in this country. Things like creating the Canada Drug Agency, moving forward on a number of different initiatives. We've seen medication prices come down across the country, and we know there's more to do. So we will continue to work in responsible ways to move forward to make sure that Canadians can afford to stay healthy.
Est-ce que ça coûterait trop cher?
Écoutez, il y a différents estimés par rapport à différents programmes, différents établissements, de différents régimes, mais nous, on est là pour continuer d'assurer que les Canadiens puissent payer pour les médicaments qui sont nécessaires.
Concernant Bombardier qui demande un appel d'offres depuis longtemps maintenant, ils disent ne pas avoir été entendus jusqu'à maintenant. Je sais qu'il n'y a pas de décision qui a été prise encore finale, mais est-ce qu'il y a eu des contacts avec Bombardier?
Je peux dire que tout d'abord, on a très clairement entendu Bombardier. Ils sont en train de faire beaucoup de bruit. Je comprends, c'est leur job d'essayer de vendre des avions et de créer des emplois. On est en train de regarder la décision. Les différents départements sont engagés avec ce dossier-là. L'important pour nous, c'est d'assurer et des bons emplois au Canada et l'équipement militaire dont nos militaires ont besoin.
Sur le Bloc, vous n'avez donc pas pris de décision sur le vote, à savoir comment vous allez voter encore sur l'antisémitisme. Vous ne savez pas de quelle base vous allez voter encore?
Il n'y a pas de vote encore. C'est un projet de loi. Et on n'a même pas lu le projet de loi encore. Là. Je sais qu'on est en train de le regarder. C'est un enjeu important, délicat, qui a des conséquences pour la liberté d'expression et surtout, on doit être là pour protéger les gens.
Bonjour tout le monde. L'MPD a toujours poussé dans ce Parlement et même depuis 11 mois, on a vu les résultats qu'on a obtenus. Les soins dentaires, bien sûr, le projet de loi anti-briseur de grève, aussi les remboursements pour l'épicerie, beaucoup plus d'argent, investissement pour le logement. Ça, c'est toutes les choses qu'on a poussées. Et bien sûr, pour l'assurance médicaments, c'est quelque chose qu'on trouve important. On va continuer à pousser. Ça fait 50 ans que les Canadiennes et les Canadiens attendent l'assurance médicaments. Tommy Douglas voulait que ça fait partie de l'assurance médicaments, l'assurance maladie dès le début, dans les années 60 et 70. Alors, on va continuer à pousser, c'est sûr, et on est confiant qu'avec les discussions constructives qu'on est en train d'avoir, qu'on va obtenir des résultats. So the NDP has been pushing, particularly even if you look at the last 11 months, very successfully for a number of things. For dental care, anti-scab legislation, significant increase in affordable housing investments, ensuring as well the grocery rebate. These are all things that the NDP has succeeded in obtaining. And so as far as pharmacare is concerned, we're engaged in ongoing and constructive discussions. We're going to continue to push. Jagmeet Singh has said throughout this Parliament, our primary concern is making a difference for Canadians. We're going to continue to push to make that difference for Canadians.
Will you consider bringing down the government over this? Because clearly the legislation, the Act, is not going to pass in time. Minister Gould, House Leader Gould, said that explicitly this morning. Have you thought about bringing down the government?
We are having ongoing and constructive discussions, first off. Secondly, we will continue to push on this issue. We have hope that the bill could be tabled by the time that we rise in December. But the reality is that the government needs more time. They're going to have to provide more help to Canadians. And that is something that we will continue to push on. For us, the most important thing is actually helping Canadians. And Jagmeet Singh has been very clear about that from the beginning. We have the results. We have the receipts. If you look over the past, even the past 11 months, you can see the difference that New Democrats have made. And we're going to continue to push on this. Canadians have waited 50 years. We're going to continue to push so that we can have that foundation of pharmacare legislation in place.
So when it comes to helping Canadians, are you talking about changes in terms of the pharmacare bill being better, or just other measures that they can take to, I don't know, take action on affordability? What are you talking about when you say they need to act to make life better for Canadians? If they're not
we're saying if they need more time, they're going to have to provide more help.
Like
and that is a message that I send through you. And it's part of the discussions that are ongoing and are very constructive that we're having.
Respectfully, I'm just trying to understand, what's the benchmark for success? So you'll be looking for a bill, so lay that out. What are you looking for
so
in the legislation?
The benchmark for success, let's look at 3 years ago. You recall I tabled the Canada Pharmacare Act. You'll also recall that both Liberals and Conservatives voted against that. The Canada Pharmacare Act that the NDP presented 3 years ago was really the foundation for universal public pharmacare in this country. We believe, and we've seen repeated reports, the Hoskins report, the Parliamentary Budgetary Officer report, that indicate the savings that Canadians would get through pharmacare and also the difference that it would make. So what's the benchmark? Well, two blocks from my home is a constituent that is paying $1,000 a month for heart medication. And that family is having to make a difficult choice between putting food on the table, keeping a roof over their head, and paying for the medication that that family member, their loved one, absolutely needs to stay in good health and stay alive. So our benchmark is moving forward on pharmacare so that we have that foundation in place, and we know that there are other steps that will follow over the next couple of years, but for us, that foundation is vitally important, and we're going to continue to push for that.
And just in terms of the fiscal framework, I know you're looking for legislation as step one, but some people might be looking at the fiscal framework thinking there's not a lot of room in there for money to go along with this piece of legislation. So is there fiscal room? Is that something that's coming up in the discussions with the Liberals?
Well first off, the cornerstone, the legislation, doesn't take resources. At this point, it's laying the foundation the same way the Canada Health Act lays the foundation for universal health care. So that's point one. Point two is, when you look at all the reports, Canadians save money. On average, right across the country, about $4 billion, according to the PBO, Parliamentary Budgetary Officer. When we look at other countries like New Zealand, by approaching with pharmacare, they saved up to 90% on many types of medication. So the issue of money is secondary to getting the foundation right, but the reality is Canadians save, businesses save up to $600 per employee. When you look at the approach of having universal public pharmacare, it's win-win-win. Businesses pay less, individuals can have the life-saving medication that they need, families pay less, and ultimately, as a society, we'll save about $4 billion.
Your leader said that the biggest issue.
Je vais juste aller, yeah.
If you're willing to blow past this deadline, this end-of-year deadline, does that mean in the new year you will settle for nothing less than a universal single-payer public program?
Well, blow past the deadline is not something that I would say. I think the important thing is having those ongoing constructive discussions, number one. Number two, moving forward with pharmacare is something that's been a 50-year wait for Canadians. For us to continue to push every single day, as Jagmeet Singh is doing, as Don Davies, our health critic, is doing, is absolutely important. For us, when we're engaged in ongoing constructive discussions, we continue those discussions. And if it means a little bit more time, as I've said before, the Liberals will have to provide more help to Canadians. I'll go to you.
Is the government consulting with any province or territories to help support pharmacare?
Well, the foundation stone, the legislation, is vitally important. That's the purview of Parliament. But the reality is, once we get through that initial stage of laying the foundation, the next step is, of course, discussions with the provinces, particularly around the formulary. So those discussions are step 2. We're talking about step 1, which is actually getting that foundation stone, that legislation in place.
What's taking so long from the NDP's point of view?
50 years of inertia. 50 years of broken promises, 50 years of sometimes promising pharmacare and not delivering. What the NDP and Jagmeet Singh has been remarkably successful on this is pushing through that inertia to actually get to things. Dental care was something that was played with for years by political parties, not the NDP. We were very sincere in our commitment to it, and now it's becoming a reality. Anti-scab legislation, for decades, Canadians were waiting for that. And there were promises made and promises broken. Now the bill is before the House of Commons. What Jagmeet Singh has been remarkably successful at, particularly over the last couple of years, is pushing through that inertia and getting to a result, and I think the track record speaks for itself.
But at the negotiating table, what's taking so long? Is the sticking point the Liberals? What, from your point of view, what is taking so long at the negotiating table?
I would say that inertia is something that we are turning the ship around. And the fact that 3 years ago, Liberals and Conservatives voted against the Canada Pharmacare Act that was right in front of them, we've done all the work, that shows that it's not a little thing that we have to push through. But the discussions are ongoing, constructive. We rejected, as you know, Jagmeet Singh and the NDP caucus rejected the first version of the bill because it just didn't do the job. We're going to continue to push until we get the job done.
When you say more, sir, you say if it's going to take longer, they have to do more. How would you explain to the average person on the street what more is? Is it more money in the long term? I can't picture more here.
Well, stay tuned. That's all I can say. We have discussions going on right now. The government is signaling that they would like a little bit more time. We're saying, and we're going to be part of those ongoing discussions, is they're going to have to deliver more help to Canadians. And when we look at the course of the last 11 months, the 2 grocery rebates, the significant increase in affordable housing investments, billions of dollars more than the government was prepared to spend, the anti-scab legislation, the dental care, I think we've proven when we push for more for Canadians, we are able to get that.
Concernant la haine en ligne, il y a une exemption religieuse au code criminel. Donc, tous les discours haineux, si c'est formulé dans un discours religieux, il y a une exemption pour ça. Il y a un projet de loi qui a été déposé, projet de loi privé. Vous, est-ce que vous êtes d'accord avec ça? Le gouvernement semble ne pas vouloir appuyer ce projet de loi-là. Vous, qu'est-ce que vous en pensez au NPD?
Malheureusement, je ne peux pas faire des commentaires parce que je n'ai pas vu le projet de loi dont vous faites référence, malheureusement.
Mr. Julian, how, on a scale
yes,
of...
no, on bringing down the government. Can you just clearly say yes or no, sir, whether you would bring down the government? Well, I just want a yes or a no, so it'll just take a second. Yes or no? You seem to be saying, in response to my first question, sir, you seem to insinuate that you are not ready to bring down the government on this, but I don't want to have to read into it. Yes or no?
I haven't insinuated anything. What I'm saying is that the NDP's role here is to get things done for Canadians. We have a remarkable track record. When you think of the last 11 months and what the NDP has managed to achieve, you have to go back decades to see a political party that has had as much influence in a minority parliament. So we will continue to push on that. If we find in the end that there is no grounds for agreement, then that's perhaps a different discussion and a different decision. But for the moment, the discussions are ongoing, they're constructive, and we're going to continue to push.
I was trying to be constructive here, so please just
sure.
indulge me.
No, I appreciate
on a
the
scale
courtesy.
of 1 to 10, how close are you to a bill? Or like, I don't know, Goldilocks analogy,
I'm
like
not,
a little bit close? I just want to know, is there pen to paper? Where are we at? Negotiations?
That's a great question, and I don't have an answer.
So
I don't have a scale on that. Well, there was a bill that we rejected.
Yes, I know, but
so the first version, and there are ongoing discussions around a second bill, but I can't share more.
impose a new deadline? Will you impose a new deadline?
Okay.
Will you impose a new deadline?
Pardon me?
Will you impose a new deadline on passing
Well,
Pharmacare
as I say,
legislation?
we're having ongoing discussions now. We have hope that the bill would be tabled by the time in December, and we'll see in the coming days what that brings. Merci beaucoup. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Any comments on the Alberta Sovereignty Act? What's going on with relationships in Alberta right now?
My discussions with Premier Smith have been collaborative and constructive. Minister Wilkinson and I met with her to talk about oil and gas issues and energy issues. The Alberta legislature and the government of Alberta can answer for the decisions they make. This isn't a surprise. These clean electricity regulations and the policy have been known for some time. I don't speculate on what the government of Alberta will or won't do or why they do it. My mandate is to try and find ways to collaborate with them while respecting commitments we've made around climate change and emissions reductions. And I'm quite confident that we can find the right way to do it.
Between Alberta doing this and Saskatchewan threatening not to pay the carbon tax anymore, is there a lack of peace in the Federation right now?
Our Federation has seen a lot worse than this. It's resilient. I was a young student in the 80s and 90s. The Federation has been tested in much more serious situations than this. These are policy disagreements with conservative governments. We have a mandate based on the election that we won in 2021 and 2019, but my responsibility as Intergovernmental Affairs Minister is to find a way to be constructive and collaborative. I come from Atlantic Canada. The energy industry in Western Canada is very important to the economy of the whole country. And every week when I go back and forth to Moncton on the airplane, I see workers that work in Alberta and Saskatchewan in the energy industry. So we're sensitive to those issues, but we think we can have policies that allow them to continue to be very effective for the Canadian economy. Merci.
L'argent donné aux anglophones du Québec, ça servait à angliciser le Québec. Juste une réponse par rapport.
L'argent va à la communauté anglophone, pas à la langue anglaise. Il y a une distinction. Vous avez à peu près 11%, 12% de la population du Québec qui parle anglais comme la première langue officielle, 9% qui parlent anglais à la maison. Ça aide nos communautés, nos centres culturels. Ça n'a rien à faire avec l'anglicisation.
Mais est-ce qu'il y aurait plus d'argent qui devrait aller à la francisation? C'est ce que le Bloc demande.
Il y a beaucoup d'argent qui va déjà à la francisation. La communauté anglophone du Québec reçoit per capita beaucoup moins d'argent que les francophones dans les autres provinces. Et je trouve vraiment c'est un effort de diviser les Québécois et les Canadiens. Merci.
He was talking about the recent trip to Israel, and he said that he didn't think that's a trip that promoted peace, and the Bloc would not have gone on it. What do you think about that, having been on the trip yourself, of course?
We were there offering support to Canadians who saw their family members murdered in a terrorist attack on October the 7th. And we were there to learn about the experiences that Israelis have had in this horrible war and this horrible incident, and I think it was well worth the trip, and I think we were showing solidarity with the Canadian ally.
Okay. It was a meaningful trip for you.
It was.
May I ask who paid for it?
The trip is sponsored travel from the UJA.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks. No problem.